A very good morning, students. Welcome to science session for class 10, and we are dealing with the 14th lesson, that is transportation in plants and circulation in animals. And in this lesson we saw the transportation of water through diffusion, active transportation, osmosis, plasmolysis, imbibition, and we saw what is transpiration, transpiration pull, phloem transportation, and the circulation in the human body through blood. We saw the components of blood, a very good morning, students. Welcome to science session for class 10, and we are dealing with the 14th lesson, that is transportation in plants and circulation in animals. And in this lesson we saw the transportation of water through diffusion, active transportation, osmosis, plasmolysis, imbibition, and we saw what is transpiration, transpiration pull, phloem transportation, and circulation in the human body through blood. We saw the components of blood, the different types of corpuscles, that is WBC, RBC, and blood platelets. And we have also seen the difference between the arteries and veins. Today we are going to see about the types of circulatory system, structure of heart, heartbeat, heart pressure, and regarding the blood groups. Let's go into the session, children. First we'll see the types of circulatory system. Now in animals there are two types of circulatory system. The first one is the open type, the other one is the closed type. Now in open type the blood is pumped by the heart and it flows into the blood space that is called as sinuses, and this sinuses is called as hemocoel, and here the capillary system is absent. Now we said that the arteries and the veins are further divided into capillary systems where the blood is reached to each and every cell of the body, isn't it? Now here the capillary system is absent. Now for example you can say arthropods or molluscs. Now in closed type the blood will flow in a complete circuit, in complete blood vessels. Now these arteries and veins are further divided into small blood vessels, that is called as capillaries, and through capillaries the blood reaches each and every part of the cell. Now most of the vertebrates consist of the closed type. Now let's go into the structure of heart. Now look into the screens, children. You can see the external structure of heart. Now heart is a pumping organ, isn't it? It pumps blood to every part of the body, and where it is situated? It is situated between the lungs in the thoracic cavity, right? The type of muscles that is present in the heart is the cardiac muscles. The heart is covered in a double-walled sac which is called as the pericardium, and it consists of an lubricating fluid because it is enclosed in thoracic cavity, isn't it? Now it is placed towards the left and above the diaphragm, right? And this contains a lubricating fluid which is called as the pericardial fluid, which reduces the friction between the heartbeat and protects it from mechanical injury. And we know that the human heart is divided into 4 chambers, isn't it? The left atrium, left ventricle, right atrium, and right ventricle, isn't it? Now the upper 2 thin walled chambers are called as the atrium or atria. If you say in singular, it is atrium. Look into the picture, children. Here you can see the left atrium, left ventricle, isn't it? On your left hand side, in the screen it will be on your left hand side, isn't it? You can see right atrium and right ventricle, isn't it? So these are the chambers, right? And when you see the atrium, so these are the upper thin walled chambers, and when you see the lower chambers, that is called as the ventricle, this will be thick walled chambers, and these chambers are separated by a septum. Septum is the thin membrane that separate the chambers, right? Now the septum between the auricle and the ventricle prevents the mixing of the oxygenated blood and the deoxygenated blood. Now if you see the septum that separates the 2 auricles, that is called as the interauricular septum, and the septum that separates the 2 ventricles are called as the interventricular septum. Now if you see the left atrium, it is smaller than the right atrium because the right atrium receives the deoxygenated blood from the different parts of the body, and these bloods are received by the veins, main veins, that is called as the superior vena cava, inferior vena cava and coronary sinus. Look into the picture, children. You can see it is labeled as superior vena cava, inferior vena cava and the coronary sinus, isn't it? So these are responsible, these veins are responsible for the transportation of the deoxygenated blood from different parts of the body into the right atrium. Now here you have the pulmonary vein which brings the oxygenated blood from the left atrium from the lungs, isn't it? Now from the lungs the oxygenated blood has to come to the left atrium, and this is carried out by the pulmonary vein. The right and the left auricle pumps the blood into the right and the left ventricle respectively. From the upper part it comes to the lower part. Now the ventricle from the upper part of the heart, that is separated, I said it is by the interventricular septum, isn't it? The left and the right ventricle have thick walls because it has to pump blood to different part of the body, isn't it? From the heart it has to reach the different part of the body, isn't it? So they have thick walls. Now from the right ventricle arises the pulmonary trunk. Now here you can see the pulmonary trunk. I will show you. Now here in this picture you can see the pulmonary trunk, isn't it, children? So from the right ventricle arises the pulmonary trunk which bifurcates, which divides into the right and the left pulmonary arteries. Now these left and the right pulmonary arteries carries the deoxygenated blood to the lungs for getting oxygenated. The left ventricle is longer and narrow than the right ventricle, and the walls, if you see, it is 3 times thicker than that of the right ventricle, because the left ventricle has to pump blood to various parts of the body. So it has thick walls so that it can pump the blood with the force to the different parts of the body. Now the left ventricle give rise to aorta. Here you can see in the picture it is labeled as aorta, isn't it? So this aorta supplies the oxygenated blood to various parts of the body. Now the coronary arteries supplies blood to the heart, and from the heart it is supplied to various parts of the body. Next we'll see the valves that is present. Now these are the muscular flaps, right? A smaller membrane, you can say, are divided into 3 types, which is called as the right arterioventricular valve, left arterioventricular valve and semilunar valve. So these are the 3 types. Now let's see them one by one. The first one is the right arterioventricular valve. Now this is located between the right auricle and the left ventricle. So it has 3 thin triangular leaf-like flap. Now I said that the flap or the muscular membrane, isn't it? A muscle membrane. Now this triangular shaped flaps are called as the tricuspid valve. It is in the shape of triangular, isn't it? So it is tricuspid valve. And the apex, that is called as the tip of the, in triangle you have 3 tips, isn't it? So the apex, we'll say that the apex of the flaps are held in position by the papillary muscles. The next is the left arterioventricular valve, and this is located between the left auricle and the left ventricle, and this consists of 2 flaps, right? Or you can say 2 cups, cuspids. So that is called as the bicuspid valve. The next one is the semilunar valve. The major arteries, now we said that there are 2 major arteries, isn't it? So that is the pulmonary artery and the aorta. Now which leaves the heart has the semilunar valve, which prevents the blood flow of blood from the auricle into the ventricle. Now this arises from the ventricle, isn't it? So this valve, that is the semilunar valve, prevents the backflow of blood into the ventricle, and they are the pulmonary and the aortic semilunar valve. Now the valve that is present in the pulmonary artery is called as the pulmonary semilunar valve, and that is present in the aorta is called as the aortic semilunar valve. Now look into this picture, children. Now here we can learn about the types of blood circulation. Blood circulation in our body as oxygenated and deoxygenated blood, isn't it? Because from the heart, the deoxygenated blood has to go into the lungs, and from the lungs the oxygenated blood has to come into the heart, and from the heart it is transported to the various part of the body, isn't it? So here we have the types of circulation, that is systemic circulation, pulmonary circulation and coronary circulation. Now look into the picture, children. Here you have two types, isn't it? Pulmonary circuit and the systemic circuit. Now on your right hand side, can you see the systemic circuit? On your left hand side you can see the pulmonary circuit. Now let's see what is systemic circuit. Now circulation of the oxygenated blood, now from where it is done? It is done from the left ventricle to the various part of the body, isn't it? And the deoxygenated blood has to return from different parts of the body to the right atrium, isn't it? Now aorta carries the oxygenated blood to the all parts of the body, isn't it? So this is called as the systemic circulation. Now in the systemic circulation you can see left atrium, left ventricle, aorta to the systematic arteries, right? So where it is oxygenated blood has to carry to different parts of the body. Then you have this systemic vein. So all this comes under systemic circuit, where the oxygenated blood from the left ventricle is carried to different parts of the body, and the deoxygenated blood has to come to the right atrium. The next one is the pulmonary circuit or the pulmonary circulation. Now here the circulation starts from the right ventricle. I said that the circulation starts from the left ventricle, isn't it? Systemic circulation. Now here it is the opposite. From the right ventricle the circulation starts. Here the pulmonary arteries that rises from the right ventricle reaches the lungs with it's getting oxygenated, and the pulmonary vein collects the oxygenated blood from the lungs and supply it to the left atrium of the heart, and from there it is transported to every part of the body through aorta. Now on your right hand side of the skin you can see the pulmonary circuit, isn't it? And here the pulmonary vein, pulmonary artery, right atrium and right ventricle comes under this pulmonary circuit. Next is the coronary circulation. Here the supply of blood into the cardiac muscles, which is called as the heart muscles, is called as the coronary circulation. Now here the cardiac muscles receives the oxygenated blood from the coronary artery, isn't it? And the deoxygenated blood from the cardiac muscles that drains into the right atrium, and that is done by the coronary sinus. Now while the circulation takes place, the blood circulates twice through the heart in one complete circle. So it is called as the double circulation. And this double circulation of the oxygenated blood ensures that they do not get mixed with the deoxygenated blood. So the blood circulation in the human body is called as double circulation, because the blood circulates twice through the heart in one complete circle. Now in some animals like fishes, amphibians and their reptiles, the mixing of the oxygenated blood and the deoxygenated blood can be tolerated to some extent, because the blood passes through the heart only once. So some animals can tolerate this mixing to certain extents, and this type of circulation is called as the single circulation. Now the blood is circulated by the contraction and the relaxation of the chambers, isn't it? Now here the heartbeat is nothing but one complete contraction and the relaxation of the atrium, that is the auricle, and the ventricle of the heart. That one complete circle or one complete cycle is called as the heartbeat. Now here the contraction of the auricle and the ventricle is called as the systole, and the relaxation of the chambers is called as the diastole. And we know that the heartbeat for a normal person is 72 to 75 times per minute. Now the heartbeat, it is of two types. The first one is the neurogenic and myogenic. Now here human heartbeat or the human heart is myogenic in nature. Now first we'll see what is neurogenic and myogenic. Now neurogenic is the heartbeat that is initiated, that starts by the nerve impulse, that starts due to the nerve impulses. Now for example you can say Annelida and Orthopoda comes under this type. Now myogenic in nature in the sense these are initiated by a special types of heart muscles, and all the vertebrates consist of the myogenic heartbeat. Now here it is initiated by a special type of muscles, heart muscles, that is called as sinoatrial node, that is SA node. It is simply called as SA node. Now these are present in the walls of the right atrium. In the opening of the superior vena cava present the sinoatrial node, and this is called as the pacemaker of the heart because it initiates the impulse of the heart muscles to contract, and this impulse from the sinoatrial node spreads as a wave over the right and the left atrium walls, pushing the blood from the atrioventricular valve into the ventricles. Now from the auricles it has to come to ventricles, isn't it? Now this waves of contraction from the SA node, that is the sinoatrial node, now reaches into the AV node, which is the atrioventricular node, isn't it? Now this stimulates to emit an impulse where the contraction spreads into the ventricular muscles by these ventricular bundle, and which is also called as the Purkinje fibers. Now in the initiation and the conduction of blood, we said that the impulse, that is the wave of contraction from the sinoatrial node, it passes through the atrioventricular node, isn't it, from SA node to AV node. Now here we said that it is through an atrioventricular bundle, isn't it, and this was discovered by His, HIS, a scientist, and this is also called as bundle of His, HIS. Now you can see in the screen, isn't it children? Now this is a very important objective types of question because this is often asked in few question paper. Now please make a note of it. Next we'll see what is cardiac cycle. In cardiac cycle, the events that occurs from the beginning to the completion of the heartbeat, that complete event is called as the cardiac cycle. Now during this cardiac cycle, the blood flows in the chambers of the heart in a specific direction. Now each cardiac cycle lasts for about or goes for about 0.8 seconds. Now we'll see the events that occurs in the cardiac cycle. Now we look into the picture children. Here you have three events, isn't it? Atrial systole, ventricular diastole and ventricular systole, isn't it? Now what is atrial systole? Now atrial systole is nothing but the contraction of the auricles, and that takes place for about 0.1 seconds. The next is the ventricular systole. Now this contraction of the ventricle lasts for about 0.3 seconds. The next one is the ventricular diastole, that takes place for about 0.4 seconds, and this is the relaxation of the ventricle, while the ventricular systole is the contraction of the ventricle, which takes place for about 0.3 seconds. Now when you add all this, that is 0.4, 0.3 and 0.1, it comes up to 0.8 seconds. So every cardiac cycles last for about 0.8 seconds. Next we'll see the heart sound. Now the heart sound is lup tup, isn't it, right? Now here this rhythmic closure and the opening of the valves is nothing but the sound of the heart, which is nothing but the lup tup. Now here the first sound lup is a longer durations where it lasts for a few seconds. Now this is produced by the closure of the tricuspid and the bicuspid valve. Now after the beginning of the ventricular systole. Now we said that the ventricular systole is nothing but the contraction of the ventricle, isn't it? After the beginning of the contraction of the ventricles, this sound, that is the first sound, is produced by the closing of the tricuspid and the bicuspid valve that is present on the either side of the chambers. Now the second sound, that is the dup, is the shorter duration sound, and this is produced by the closure of the semilunar valve. Now at the end of the ventricular system. Now what is the end of the ventricular system? The contraction has to complete, isn't it? Now at the beginning of the ventricular system, we said that the closing of the tricuspid and the bicuspid valve takes place, isn't it? And the sound arises, that is the lub. And the second sound arises after the ventricular systole has got completed, and this is due to the closure of the semilunar valve, because we said that there are three types of valves, which is nothing but the tricuspid valve and bicuspid valve that is present in the right atrioventricular valve and the left atrioventricular valve, and the semilunar valve that is present in the pulmonary artery and the aorta. So this is how the heart sound arises. Next we'll see what is blood pressure. The force that is exerted during the flow of blood is called as the blood pressure, especially in the walls of the arteries. Now we said that these arteries, the main arteries, are further divided into arterioles, and these are further divided into capillaries, isn't it? Now when you see the blood pressure, it is very high in the arteries, then it slows down in the arterioles, then when it comes to the capillaries, it is even more slow, and it is very, very low in the veins. Right? And now this blood pressure is measured in terms of systolic pressure and the diastolic pressure. Now we'll see what is systolic pressure. Now when the ventricular systole, that is the contraction of the ventricle, takes place, the left ventricle contracts and it forces the blood into the aorta, which is referred to as in systolic pressure. Now when you talk about the diastolic pressure, now during this what happens, the ventricular relaxes, isn't it, and the pressure drops down and this is called as the diastolic pressure. Now a prolonged elevation in the blood pressure is called as the high blood pressure, or called the hypertension. Now if there is a decrease in the pressure than the normal level, then it is called as the hypotension or the low blood pressure. Now let's see the instruments that is used to measure the blood pressure. Now look into the picture, children. You are very familiar with these instruments that is used to measure the blood pressure, isn't it? Now these are used to measure the blood pressure when a person is relaxing or in a resting condition. This is also used to detect the blood circulation and the working of the heart. Now this instrument, that is the manometric and the digital types of the blood pressure apparatus, is used to diagnose whether the person has the low blood pressure or the high blood pressure, and these instruments are called as homometric or the digital. You can see the B1 is the digital one. Now for a normal healthy adult, the blood pressure should be 120 mm by 80 mm of mercury. Now in these metric and digital apparatus that is used to measure the blood pressure, now you would have seen that the mercury level rises and it drops down, isn't it? So this is how it is measured, and it is expressed as 120 mm by 80 mm of the mercury. Look into the picture, children. You are very familiar with this instrument, isn't it? Apparatus that is called as the stethoscope, and this is used to detect the sound that is produced by the heart, isn't it? Especially the internal organs of the human body. The heart sound is heard by placing the stethoscope on the chest, isn't it? And this is usually used to diagnose or localize the health problems in the human body. And now this is also replaced by the electronic stethoscopes, which has high accuracy and the precision. Next we'll see the blood groups. Now we said that the blood groups are divided into A, B, O, AB, isn't it? Now here this human blood consists of a special substance which is called as the antigens or antibodies. Antigens are represented by Ag and antibodies are represented by AB. Now here you can see in the picture, isn't it? Now here this tabular column shows you the classifications of the blood group, right? And now this blood groups are divided on the basis of presence and the absence of the antigens or the antibodies. Now, where are these antigens present? These are present on the membrane surface of the RBC, that is the red blood corpuscles. On the membrane of the red blood corpuscles, you can find the antigens. Now, antibodies are present in the blood plasma. We said that the matrix, isn't it? So, based on this, this is divided into A, AB and O. Now, A blood group individual consists of the antigen A, which is present on the surface of RBC, and antibody B is present in the plasma. Now, when you talk about the B group individuals, they consist of antigen B, which is present on the surface of RBC, and the antibody that is present is anti-A, which is antibody A. Now, AB individuals consist of the antigens A and B on the red blood corpuscles, and both the antibodies are absent for the AB group. Now, when you talk about the O group individual, the antigen AB are absent on the surface of the red blood corpuscles, while they consist of both the antibodies A and B. So, this is how it is divided. Now, the person with the AB blood group is called as the universal receptor, in the sense they can receive blood from any blood group. And O blood group are called as the universal donor because they can donate to the person with any blood group. There is another factor which is called as the Rh factor, which is found in the Raisin's monkey, and this Rh factor is due to the presence of the antigen for the Rh. Now, Rh positive means it consists of Rh antigen on the surface of the body. Rh negative in the sense they do not contain the Rh antigen on the surface of the red blood corpuscles, and the antibodies that is developed against this Rh antigen is called as the Rh antibodies. Next, we'll see what is lymphatic system. Now, what is lymph? We'll see first what is lymph. Now, lymph is nothing but the colorless fluid that escapes into the intercellular space from the walls of the capillaries. Now, we know that the blood is carried to each and every part of the cell through capillaries, isn't it? Now, there are minute pores that is present in the walls of the capillaries. Through these, the colorless fluid escapes into the intercellular space, and that is called as the lymph. Now, it is similar to that of the blood plasma, that is the matrix that is present in the blood, but it will be colorless because it contains less proteins. And this lymph consists of small amount of nutrients, carbon dioxide, water, WBC, that is the white blood corpuscles, and oxygen. And now here this lymphatic system comprises of the capillaries, vessels, nodes, and the lymphatic ducts, similar to that of the blood vessels. Now, here lymph is a fluid that flows into the lymphatic system. Now, we said that the blood that flows into the circulatory system, isn't it? So, similarly, the lymph is a fluid that flows into the lymphatic system. Now, here the lymphatic capillaries unite to form the larger lymphatic vessels, and lymph nodes are nothing but the small pear shape or the oval shaped structure that is located along the pathway of the or throughout the length of the lymphatic vessels. Now, let's see the functions of lymph. Now, this is a very, very important question. Now, the functions of lymph, the main functions of the lymph is that it supplies nutrition and oxygen to those parts where the blood cannot reach the body. Now, it also drains the excess of the metabolites, all those protons, nutrition, oxygen, carbon dioxide, water, and the white blood cells, and returns the protons into the blood from the intercellular space. And the next one is that it also carries the absorbed fat from the small intestine to the blood, and the lymphatic capillaries that is present in the villi is present in the small intestine, isn't it? It also absorbs the digested food. Now, we said that the white blood corpuscles are responsible for the defense mechanism, isn't it? Now, here the lymphocytes that is present in the white blood corpuscles categories that defense against the infections which involves in the defense mechanism. Now with this we come to the end of the lesson, that is transportation in plants and circulation in animals, and this is a very important lesson, children. Here in this lesson you have to be thorough with what is transpiration pull, and the structure of heart, sometimes asked in the 7-mark question, and initiation and the conduction of the heartbeat, that is present in page number 209. Now this is also one of the important question, and about the blood groups and the functions of blood. Now these are the most important questions that is present in this lesson. Now your homework for today is that you are going to learn the functions of the blood and the heartbeat. Now there is in small two paragraphs that is given in page number 210 under the heading heart sound. So you are going to learn that, and about the structure of heart, that is present in 207. With this we come to the end of the session, children. Thank you.